Let's build a Data Studio community visualization part 4. In the last video, we added comparison value to our table. This time, we want to take care about the format of our metrics and dimensions. We need to format all the field types that should not be displayed as string values. Let me show you what I mean. So here's where we ended the last video. We have a table with our dimensions and metrics and our comparison values. And everything looks pretty okay right now. But what if we add some other metrics like durations? Let's pick this average session duration here. And we see it kind of looks pretty weird. This is because the average session duration is passed to the Data Studio community visualization in seconds. If we look at the console and check how the data is passed, so not this, but this variable in the table, default, and then in the metrics, we see it is passed the same way. So we have the session duration in seconds, and because it's an average session duration that is based on around 13,000 users, we have these very high decimal numbers. So we need to change this. Other metrics, like let's check the bounce rate. Okay, we need to scroll a little bit. They look also not that good. It should be 43% and not 0.4 and then all the numbers. So we need to format this. But first, we need to know which field types we have in Data Studio. Finding out all the different field types in Data Studio is very easy. We just have to check the data source settings. And then we click on this field type here, which is text right now, and check all the different options. So in the numeric category, we have number, percentage, and duration. We have a text category or a text field type. We have some date types like date, date time, and only year, and so on. We have a Boolean field type. We have some geolocation field types. We have all the different currencies. These are a lot. And we have URL and image. These are all the different field types we have in Data Studio. But how do we know which field type we have in the table? We can check the console for this. In the fields variable, for all of our dimensions and metrics, there's always a type here. And as you see, the average session duration is the type duration. And the bounce rate is type percent. And all the others that look okay right now are type number. So we need to know all these codes. And you can find all of them in the DSCC library. Let me go to the non-minified version of the DSCC library. It's under bundles dscc.js. And in here we need to scroll down a little bit. Let's see where it is. There we go. So here are all the different field types. We know the different codes now. It's year, year underscore quarter, and so on. Okay, so which of these should we change? Let's go back to Data Studio to view a few examples here. We know we need to change the duration and the percentage. Let's remove these. So what's with the different date types? Let's add date to our table. And we see it is formatted like year, month, and day, but not very good. If we select date, hour, and minute, it gets even more confusing. So we don't know exactly if it's like 7 hours. No, it's 17 days, 1 hour, 51 minutes. This should be different. We need to format all of our date field types, I guess. So all of these should be formatted. Let's check some geolocation now, like city ID or town city. So this is kind of looking all right. The city names are here. We do not need to change the geolocation here. And even all the other geo field types, they are okay in string values. So to sum up, what do we want to change? We want to change all the numeric field types like percent, duration, and even number, because for different language settings, there might be a comma in the number, and sometimes the comma is a point. And yeah, I'm German, I use comma. The English guys may use a point instead. It's all different. So the text can stay the same. It's a string value. The date time field times need to be changed. Boolean can stay the same because it's false or true. That is okay. All the geo field types, they can stay the same. We need to change the currencies because the currency sign like euro or US dollar should be there as well and not just the number. And I want the URL to be clickable, and I want an image to be shown as an image and not just some code. So yeah, date and time, numeric, currencies, and URL is what we format in this video. I did a little research online to find out how to convert seconds to hours, minutes, and seconds with JavaScript. And after a while, I found this page. And there is one answer that I liked the best, which is this one. I know it's kind of old. Yeah, I don't care about this. I like this because the outputs that are here are looking okay. So I'm going to use this and paste it to my visualization code. Let's do it right after we joined the tables and define it like this. And now we need to check for every value if it's a duration, and if it is a duration, we need to reformat it with this function. I use a for each function for this. So I'm going to go with def for each, then function row, and inside we need to loop through all of our metrics. Let's use a for loop for this. So like this. And check if the field is a duration. So if thisData.fields.metric I.type equals duration. And then we need to change the format. So we do like row dot metric I equals to HHMMSS and the same thing. So we want to convert this exact value here. Yeah, this should be all right. And if we have a comparison, so if there's a comparison, then I would like to do the same for our comparison metric, and we name this comp metric. So let's copy this and use comp metric instead. Okay. So let's try this. I uploaded this and it looks like we made a mistake. So let's check our console. And it says I cannot read properties of undefined reading metric. Okay, let's check the line where we have it. So in this row here. And it looks like we have field and here we have fields. So yeah, I think I should put an S here. Okay, so let's try it again. And it still looks like we have a mistake. So let's check this again. In the console, it says cannot read properties of null. Again, reading 1 in this comparison line. So I think the solution should be that for some rows, we do not have a comparison metric, but we have a metric. These are the rows that we only have in the default table, but not in the comparison table. So we might fix this if we put a condition here, not only for if there's a comparison table, but if we have the comparison metric for this row. So let's try this. So it should be not if comp, it should be if row comp metric, like this. So let's re-upload and hope this time it will work. Okay, so we got a result now. It's not quite what we want because the session duration is still a number, but the delta is formatted as we want. But this is okay because we haven't really inserted the DEF values to the table for all the other metrics, only for the delta values. We need to insert these as well. So here you see it. For the comparison values, we use our DEF, and for the regular values, we use this data table's default metric. Let's use the DEF instead. So like this, and not the comp metric, but the metric. So we upload and see if it works. Now we got what we wanted. The duration columns look as we wanted. But I noticed something. When I played around with the sorting of the table, I noticed that it doesn't work very good anymore for the durations. Here with the 51 minutes, which should be bigger than the 50 hours, it's getting a little weird. So what happens is that this table is sorting all these values as if they were string values because we formatted them. We need to change this. We want to have the sorting based on the old number values while seeing the good formatted values. In order to do this, I decided to give each cell an attribute which is their real value. So we have for each TD element let's say a data value equals and then the number, whatever it is. So this is the plan. To make this work, we need to have the values Data Studio is giving us and the values we are creating with our formatting side by side. I did this with creating a deep copy of every variable inside the row. Let's do this. So we begin with our dimensions. So let's say we put an if condition if we have a row dimension, which should be always the case, but I don't know. And if we have a row dimension, then I would like to have a row. Let's name it display dimension. This should be a deep copy of our row dimension. So we use JSON parse of JSON stringify here again. Okay, this looks all right. And we're doing the same thing with our metric and our comparison metric. For the metric, like this. And we name it display metric and put the metric here again. And then the comparison metric shouldn't be named display comp metric, which should be a deep copy of the comparison metric. Okay. So right now we have everything twice in our data. And now in our duration formatting, we only change the display comp metric here to HMS of, here it doesn't matter, but we put the display comp metric here as well. And the display metric, row.display metric, doing the same thing here. And in the section where we build the table, we need to change this as well to our def.display metric and our def.display comparison metric. And now we need to add an attribute with cell.set attribute. Name it data value and take the def.j comparison metric I without the display and do the same thing for the non-comparison cells. Like this. So we set some attribute, but our library does not know that we want to sort it based on the attribute. So I need to change the library as well. I'm not going to show you this since it is very unique for this specific visualization. So I'm just going to re-upload the files and we see if it works. So it looks like we did another mistake. Let's check what we got. Again, cannot read the properties of null. And yes, it looks like we did our if condition for our comp metric, but not here. So maybe we have some values again that are not in the comparison table. So let's change our code and let's see where we got it. Here we have it. So here we say if we have a comparison metric, but here we do not say this. So let's put this line in the condition as well. And then we upload this. Or maybe we put the inner text to null and we set the attribute to null as well. So set the attribute to null. So I think it should be okay without the quotes here. Let's see if we can do it like this. So now it looks all right. And let's see if the sorting works. So if we want to sort by session duration, let's give it a couple more rows here. If we sort it by session duration, there's the null and it doesn't look that messed up right now. It actually looks pretty okay. Yep, that's okay. So that's what we want to have. And for each of our cells, we see these data value attributes, not only for the durations, but also for our other values. And now we can move on to format the numbers, the currencies, and the percentages. For formatting numbers, currencies, and percentages, I found this function, the international number format. As you see here, the input has to be a number, and then we call the international number format. We have to specify the language settings, the style, which is currency here, and then the currency code. So the output looks like this. If you do another example with Japanese currency, the output is formatted to yen. So this looks all right for currencies, but it also can do numbers and percentages as well. Let me see if we get an example with numbers. Here we have one, the international number format for German of this number here is 123.456, comma, as you would expect it in German. So this looks all right. And it's also possible with percentages. So we use this and we start with percentages. So first we build up our percentage formatter function. We name this var pct formatter. Let's type it correctly. PCT formatter equals new international number format. And now we need to specify the language. And Data Studio is not giving us any information about the language settings of the user that views the dashboard. But we can use the browser settings instead. So let's define a variable which we set to the browser language settings. Let's do it at the beginning of the function and name it language settings. Language settings should be, and we can find the language settings of the browser in the navigator.language. Make it a variable and see if the browser is actually capable of doing this. So it should be DE for me because I'm based in Germany. Navigator.language equals DE for me. Okay, so we can use this variable then in our percentage formatter. So copy the language settings and paste it right here. So now we need to specify the style of the formatter. So we have to say it should be a percentage. This has to be done in a JSON format. So we put everything in curly brackets and then type style should be %. Style should be %, and we have other options as well. Let's check these options in the documentation. And we have to click on this constructor link here. And we see now the different options we have. We have a currency options that we need later. And for the percentage, I'm interested in the decimal precision. And there's a minimum integer, minimum fraction digits. I think we use the minimum and maximum fraction digits. And since we want to change this later, we make it a variable as well. So we use these minimum fraction digits. Minimum fraction digits should be, let's say it should be 2, but we change it to a variable in a couple of seconds. And the maximum fraction digits should be 2 as well. And let's say we define a variable var precision of our rates. Let's name it like this. Not very good, but yeah. And this should be 2 to start with. This way it's easier to embed a system where the dashboard creator can change it later, as we do in the next video. So we copy this precision rates and use it here and here. So this is our percentage formatter function. And now we have to use this. So as we did with our duration, we need a condition to check if our field type is a percentage. So I am not sure what the code is. Let's check this code exactly in the library. It is %. So let's copy this code and use it here. And we define our display metric and our display comp metric now, just as we did with our durations. So we can copy the code to have a good start. But instead of using the toHHMMSS function, we use the formatter instead. And this can be done with pct formatter dot format and then our metric. And the same thing with our comparison metric. So let's see if that works. As you see, our bounce rate does not look bad at all anymore. So we can continue doing the same with the numbers. Formatting the numbers is very similar to formatting the percentages. We can even copy our code here. Check the field type of a number in the library again, since I'm not sure. It is number. Okay. Use this number here. And then we need a new function for the instead of the percentage formatter. So we copy this as well. And we name this to num formatter for number. And the style has to be decimal here. And we may want to have another variable instead of precision rates. Let's create another variable that is precision for numbers. Precision numbers should be, let's give it 1 decimal place. And then we use this here. Okay, like this. So we use this num formatter now instead of the percentage formatter. And that should be it. Let's see what we got. So now you see our new users metric is formatted just as we wanted. We have a German format with the point for separating the thousands and the comma for separating the decimals. And we have one decimal place. For formatting currencies, we need one more thing. We need the currency code. So this currency code might be different for different metrics in the table. There might be one metric with euro and one with dollar. I know it's very unlikely, but it could happen. So we cannot define the formatter outside of our loop, but we have to do it for each metric. So we use this code and copy it in here. And we can even copy our code for the numbers to use it for the currencies again. And now we have a little problem because the field type is not currency. It is a currency and some code. Let's see what we have. So we have currency, AED, ALL, and so on. So everything starts with currency. So we need to put the starts with function in the condition. So instead of these 3 equal signs, we say dot starts with, and then currency. So this way we get all the field types that start with currency. So we want to put this number formatter or our new currency formatter inside of this condition and rename it like cur formatter. I'm not very good with the names. We change the style to currency. The minimum and maximum fraction digits are okay, we can reuse these, but I want to have it for a different variable. So we have to set up a new variable that is named precision currency. And it should be 2 because you always do euros and dollars with 2 decimal places. So copy this and use it here and here. And now we need to have the currency code. So this currency code should be currency. And then, what is the currency code? We can find this currency code directly in the field type. So if you look back at the field types here, you see that everything after currency is the actual currency code. So we can separate these last 3 characters and we have our currency code. So I put a variable here, seek code as a variable should be, and then let's use our field type and replace currency underscore. I have to put that in quotes, I guess, with nothing. Okay, let's save this and we can use the currency code here. So now let's recheck it. Everything has to start with currency. Then we have the currency code. That is everything from the field type except the currency underscore. So we only have the last 3 characters as currency code. And then we use this here with the new cur formatter. And we have to use the cur formatter instead of the number formatter here. And this way it should work. Let's see if we got it right. So it looks like we got another error. Let's check this. So the console says unexpected token, okay, in 192. So it looks like we forgot to put a curly bracket somewhere. Let's check our currency. It starts here and stops here, okay. And the number starts here and stops here. Okay, so maybe the number needs to have a closing bracket. Now the marking is away. Let's recheck this. So we still have an error. Let's see what it is. So it says uncaught range error, invalid currency code USD. I added the revenue to see some revenues, and it doesn't look very well. So we solved this problem by looking again at the field ID that we see here. In the fields, metric, types, we see that there's a gap between this underscore and the currency code. This is not there in the documentation, but we see it here. So we have to put the blank space in our replace function. Like this, and then save and re-upload. And there we go. Our revenue is formatted as US dollar, but with a German format because I'm located in Germany. Let's change the currency. Let's say we want to change it to euro, and it is euro. So now we move on with the dimensions. For formatting date dimensions, I found this function, date prototype to local string. So it basically says we need to create a new date with the date UTC and then the year, month, day, and then hour, minute, second. And we can use the toLocalString function then with our language settings in the time zone, and we get an expected output. We even can do some options where we specify what output do we want to get. So let's see if I can find some of them. So here we have some options with this options variable, but we can do it inside of this local string function as well. And it is defined a long weekday, a numeric year, a long month, and a numeric day. And the output is this for German formatting. Let's work with this. So I think we should start with the regular date, which should be, let's see, the field type of this. It should be year, month, day. So we need this. And since we are finished working on our metrics, we need to work now on our dimensions. So let me just put this as a comment here, and we should do another loop for our dimensions. Copy the metrics loop and do the dimension loop instead. And let's end it here. So we start with year, month, day, and we can copy the if condition. Let's copy this one, where the dimensions type starts or equals year, month, day. And now we need to make a date of our string. Let's create a new variable named date string, and this should be row.dimension.I for the right dimension string. And we need to convert this into a date. And I was very lazy with this, so I just separated this into different substrings and then created a date out of this. But you can also work with the converter you find online. For example, if you create your Data Studio visualization with D3, I think there should be a library for this. But I used a very simple method. So let's define a new variable that is new date equals, and then I go with new date, and let's see at the specifications there. So let's go back to the documentation page. And here you see we have a date UTC, and then we have 2012, 11, 20, and this becomes 20th of December in 2012. So I don't know why, but the months start at 0. So the first month is 0 here, and the month with the 1 is February. So we need to decrease this number a little bit later, but let's do it. So we go with date string dot substring, and then we start at the first character and end at the 4th character. So this is our year. Then we write a comma and do the same thing again. Date string. Then we start at the 4th character and go to the 6th. So we have only the 5th and the 6th character. And since this is the month, we have to decrease it by 1. Then we do the same thing again with the date string dot substring with 6th and 8th character. So here we should create a date out of our string. And now we can use the toLocal function to format this. So we say row dot display dimension I equals new date dot toLocal string. Then we put our language settings first, and then our options. And the options should be again as JSON, and we put year, and now we have to specify the format of the year. Let's look at the documentation for this. So here you see it can be long, numeric, long, or numeric. Let's see if we find a page where we have all the different variables. So I found this page here where you have all the different options. Like, let's look for year. Year can be numeric or a 2-digit if you want to have only the 12 in this case. Month can be numeric, 2-digit, long, short, and narrow. And day can be numeric or 2-digit. Let's say our dashboard creators should be able to change this if they want to. So we put a variable here as well. Let's scroll back to the top of the function where we put all our variables. And then we define a variable named year format, which is, for now, it can be, what was the case here? It can be numeric. We define a month format. This should be short. And we define a day format, which is like numeric as well. Let's say numeric. Okay, so we use these variables now in our local string function. Year format, and month should be month format, and day should be day format. And there's one thing that is mandatory here. we have to set the right time zone, which is UTC. So I think this should work. Let's check it for the regular date. So as usual, there's an error. Let's check it. It says date string is not a function. Yes, obviously. Oh yeah, here I forgot to use this substring function. Okay, so let's add this and try it again. So we got a result now, but it's not our date as we tried to format it. This is because in our HTML table, in the dimensions section, we still insert the dimension values from our vis data directly. We have to change this to our DEF variable. So let's copy this and change the display metric to display dimension. We upload and see if it works. Now everything gets formatted. You see the numeric day, the short month, and the numeric year. Everything looks fine. But there's not only the date type, but there are a few others. So we need to do this for every type which we see here, or almost every type. We can leave the hours and the minutes. We can leave that as a string, or maybe the month, but maybe we want to format this. I'm not going to show you how I did it for every type. I just skipped this. So I skipped this part a little. I added all the other formats. It is some work to copy all these functions here. And as you see, it's the same thing over and over again. If we have a year month, we do not need the day. If we have an hour additionally, we need to query this in our date string from the 8th to 10th and so on. So, and in Data Studio, this looks like this. So we can change the format to year and month. Let's see if we can change it to date hour. So it looks like this. Everything gets formatted just as we want it. Now to the last part, which is URLs and images. To format images and hyperlinks, we need some HTML code. I created some test image and a test hyperlink to show you what's going on. Let's see what I did. I created a hyperlink to our mohrstade website with the link label mohrstade link. And the image is our logo with the alternative text, image text. So in the regular table, this looks very well. We see the mohrstade link with the white URL behind it, and we see the image. But in our visualization, we see the mohrstade link as a text and the URL right behind this. And we also see the image as the URL, then another URL with Google user content, and at the end we see the image text that we pasted. Let's look at the hyperlink first. Let's check the console to see how the data is coming to the Data Studio visualization. And we check the objects with the table and the default and see that it really comes with mohrstade link. Then it looks like there's 2 of the blank spaces, and then there's a URL. And the image is kind of the same. So I tried to split the string into mohrstade link and then the URL. And I used the blank space as a split character, but this doesn't work. So it turns out this character here is a special character, and I could only find out which character it is by console logging every character code that is in there. So it is the character code with the number 160. So we should split this string up by the character code 160. Let's do this. So at the end of our date formats, we make a new condition, which is like if the type is a hyperlink. Let's comment it for us later. And of course, this has to be in caps lock. And in here, we can say our row dimension, our row display dimension needs to split by the character code 160, which can be called like string from char code 160. So, and we put this into another variable. So let's say we have the link text and the link URL. The link URL as ahref, which is like the second of this array. So we call it with the 1, and we have the link text a text, which is the first of this array. So there might be a special case where we do not have this display dimension, where it is null, and if we split anything which is null, we get an error. So I ran into this, very rare, but it happened. So let's put a condition around this with if this row display dimension is there. And I forgot to put the I here. So let's put the I over there. Yeah, and then we can build up our HTML code with row.displayDimension I should be, then we need to open this up and say href should be like, and then we go href plus, let's go back into the string, and we need to put the single quote here and say target should be blank. It will only work if the target blank attribute is set, because Data Studio does not allow to open links in the same tab, only in new tabs. So we can close this link here, and then we put the link text plus a text plus, and then we close the link like this. And of course, we need to put brackets behind our if condition where we actually activate this. So let's do it like this. So now it looks like it should work. Okay, let's test it. Okay, so you see the HTML code as a text. This is because we still use the inner text method and not the inner HTML method. So let's change this for the dimensions to inner HTML and see again if it works. So we have something here. We have the mohrstade link as the link text. This looks pretty nice. but if I click on this, I do not get to the right URL, and I just noticed that this string is separated by 2 of these special characters here, and I only separated this by 1. So we need to change this. So go back to our script here and make out of 1 of these strings, let's make 2 out of these. So we want to split it by 2 of these characters. So let's see if it works now. So now it looks okay. If I click on this link, I get to our home page. All right, let's do the same thing with the image. And the image is again separated by 2 of these characters, but we have another value here. We have the image URL, we have this other URL, and we have the image text. Data Studio does not allow us to load images from other domains. It only allows us to load images from Google domains, like this. If you specify the image in a dimension, the image will be automatically uploaded to the Google servers, and then it will get a Google user content URL. So we use this URL here as the image source, and we build up our HTML code again. So to get a good start, we copy the hyperlink section and we use it again. And instead of hyperlink, we write image, put that in the comment. And we have 3 arguments here. We need the 2 here as well. And the first argument here is the original URL. The second argument is the Google URL. And the third argument can be the alternative text. And our HTML code has to look like this. It has to be image, and the source attribute should be the Google URL. We do not need any target blank stuff in here, but we need to have an alternative text here. So we put it like this and get our alternative text in there. And the rest we can delete. And let's see if that works. There we go. So we have the image right now. We cannot set the height or width of this image right now, but it is displayed. So that's all for today. We did a lot of formatting. In the next video, we're gonna look at the different styling options we have and how to work with them. So see you next time.